All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out tonight and joining us for our Grad Research Live event. My name is Ashley Sorrell. I am the Assistant Director for Graduate Student Professional Enhancement in the Graduate School. And I want to give a shout out to my colleagues in the room, Dr. Morris Grubbs, who is the Director of Graduate Student Professional Enhancement, and Chad Gilpin, who's hiding in the back room doing other things. He is our Program Manager and has done a lot of behind-the-scenes work to really make this event successful. Also, Abby Wood, who splits her time with the grad school, but is in Stuckert Career Center, and she is going to help us out with the timer tonight. So thank you all so much. And we'll introduce the judges a little bit later. We'll have to wait for that. But again, thank you so much for coming out for our Grad Research Live event. This event is really a recognition and celebration of all the vital research work that graduate students do on UK's campus. Encompassed in the event is the official 3-Minute Thesis competition. Now, the 3MT is an international competition with schools across the United States and internationally holding their own version of the 3MT. As you can see, it was started actually in Australia in 2008. For UK, this is our 11th year of hosting a 3MT competition. And so really the spirit of this competition and challenge for those who are participating tonight is to distill their complex research in a way that speaks to a general audience. And of course, to do that in 3 minutes. And so this is a vital skill that really bridges the world of academia with that of the community around us. So we really take a lot of pride in the importance of hosting this each year. Before I get more into the official rules of the evening and how the evening will go about as we go along, I would like to introduce our Dean of the Graduate School and Associate Provost of Graduate and Professional Education, Dean Podrick Kinney.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you all for being here. A special thanks to the judges. I really appreciate what you're going to be doing. Let me just say, I think you all know this very well. Grad school is hard. And what I love about 3MT is you make the hard stuff look easy. I mean, in the sense that lay people such as myself can say, oh, okay, I get it. I was reflecting how hard it is actually to go from the hard, from the complex, all the stuff that you know, and to condense it into something. I was thinking back today about the process when I was a grad student of writing, I think it was a 10-page, or maybe it was a 15-page grant application, and then going to the next grant application and seeing that they only wanted 3 pages, and then the next grant application that only wanted 1 page. And each time I thought, I can't do that. How am I gonna say what really needs to be said? I could do it in the 10, I could do it in the 3. 1 page seems almost impossible. We didn't have 3MT at the time. I'd like to think that I would have done it, and I know it would have helped me incredibly. And I hope that other people would have really enjoyed hearing me boil down my thesis into 3 minutes. I am really looking forward to hearing about your work, whether you're at the beginning of your research or deep into your dissertation. Either way, I know I'm going to learn a lot today, and I thank you for that. So, looking forward to it, and thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Dean Kinney. So, Grad Research Live, as it exists at UK, has 2 tracks. We will see presenters represented in each of these tracks, the first being the pre-3MT Research Showcase. Now, the pre-3MT are those early researchers who have a research design, but no conclusive thesis or no conclusive evidence as of yet. But they have a good design, they have a hypothesis, they might have a working thesis. The 3-minute thesis competition, the official 3MT, those participants in that track do present or have a conclusive thesis or conclusive or late stage research findings. So that's the difference between the two tracks as we go through our event today. So what are the rules? Those who are participating know these well. One of the more challenging rules, other than the 3-minute part, is one single static slide. So no animations on the slide that has to represent their research in some way. A slide that is visually engaging, but maybe not visually overwhelming. Easy, right? Also, we can see there are no prompts, other electronic media. The limit is 3 minutes. As I mentioned, Abby will be doing a timer for us. And the decision of the judges is final. You can look at some of those other rules as well. Speaking of the judges, I would like to thank and introduce our judges for tonight. We have Yasmin Congleton, a professor of biology at Bluegrass Community and Technical College. Matthew Giancarlo, professor of English and director of graduate studies at UK. And Curtis Sandberg, vice president for student life and dean of students at Georgetown College. So the judges will be watching each presenter, each presentation, and scoring them once the presentation has ended. There will be some silence between the scores, so let's all just commit to sitting in that awkward silence because I don't have any jokes or ways to fill it. So, and then we'll move on to the next presenter. Now, at the end of the pre-3MT presentations, we will give the audience some time to vote for their people's choice among the pre-3MT presenters. And same thing at the end of the 3MT. Chad will, or we will be putting up a QR code for you to scan and be able to select your people's choice. So at this point, I would like to ask you to please silence your cell phones. Also, all the winners will be announced at the end of the evening. So both pre-3MT and 3MT announced at the same time. Silence your cell phones and we can get started if everyone's ready for the pre-3MT research showcase. All right. First up, we have Madison Adams with communication, telling us do instead of don't, building a better future for tradeswomen. Madison.
On this particular day at work, I looked very much like the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, except I was wearing paint-splattered work boots instead of sparkly red shoes. In this moment, I'm lying on my back under a kitchen sink, my feet are sticking out in the middle of the floor, and I am fighting to install a garbage disposal. My nose is throbbing because I totally dropped this thing on my face, and I'm feeling the pressure of being the only woman on the crew. I feel weak and inferior when compared to the men, yet I fight through the pain and the self-doubt, figure out how to twist this thing into place, and feel proud of this new skill I've learned. My name is Madison Adams, and by academic year, I'm your typical PhD student in communication. Yet over the summer, I work on a turn crew for a property management company. As a crew, when a resident moves out, we go in, we fix everything wrong in the apartment, and then a new resident moves in. So things like broken blinds, slow drains, and garbage disposals. Although this is a temporary job, it's opened my eyes to some of the experiences of tradeswomen, those women who work as pipe fitters, carpenters, electricians, or in any skilled trade. And we know that tradeswomen face numerous challenges on the job, things like harassment, discrimination, or inadequate PPE. Yet even though I've experienced some of those things on the job, I still really enjoy the work that I do. And so this got me thinking, how can I research the positive experiences of work for tradeswomen? One way to do this is to research the process of self-expansion for tradeswomen. Self-expansion happens when we literally expand our self-concept or those ideas we have about our skills, abilities, or characteristics. Specifically at work, self-expansion happens when we get new, challenging, and interesting tasks that allow us to develop new identities or learn new skills. And this is a very good thing. Workers who self-expand have higher levels of workplace satisfaction, commitment, and engagement, and they have lower levels of stress and burnout. So as tradeswomen only continue to increase in number, it is not enough for researchers to say, don't do this or don't do that. Instead, through my research, I hope to be able to give concrete suggestions on what organizations can do to support tradeswomen through self-expansion. For instance, as a communication scholar, I hope to be able to answer the question, what can people and organizations do or say to facilitate this self-expansion process for tradeswomen? Overall, through my research, I hope to be able to build a better work environment for current and future generations of these courageous, strong, and valuable women. Thank you.
I just want to say, I believe we have 2 past winners of the 3MT in the room, or the pre-3MT and the 3MT. 2 or more. Okay, we're going to move on to our next presenter, Mimi Aguilar from Social Psychology. Will be talking about Collect $200, the influence of passing status of transgender victims on the trans panic defense. Mimi?
Hello everyone, my name is Dimitri Aguilar and I'm a first year graduate student at UK in the Tapaleo lab, where we're currently investigating how passing status of transgender victims influences jury decision making in trans panic defense cases. Now the trans panic defense is a legal defense where defendants attempting to get more lenient sentencing claim that the revelation that someone was trans led to their violent subsequent actions. And passing status when it comes to the transgender experience is just the ability to present as the gender you identify as, usually by conforming to traditional gender roles. For example, a trans man's or woman's ability to present as male or female if that's how they identify as. Now, how I'm going to illustrate previous research findings of passing status influence on social outcomes is with a game of Monopoly, where we have 2 players. We have a passing transgender player symbolized by the sheep and a non-passing transgender player symbolized by the wolf. And during the game, the passing transgender player is going to win because the non-passing transgender player is continually discriminated against for their gender identity. But after the game, both players are killed by separate defendants. But it seems that the defendant who killed the passing transgender player is seen in a more sympathetic light and given more lenient sentencing because of the idea that the passing transgender victim was more the passing transgender victim was seen as more deceptive about their gender identity more compared to the non-passing transgender player. Now, trans people, regardless of passing status, are not deceiving others about their gender identity. But could this idea that passing status is a form of deception and those engaging in it are seen as wolves in sheep's clothing be used to exploit the trans pan defense and make it more successful? That's what we tested in part 1 of our 3-part study, where we asked people to act as mock jurors for a court case either involving a passing or a non-passing transgender victim of homicide. What we found is that people had higher blame and moral outrage towards the victim, situation blame, and lower defendant culpability for the crime compared to the non-passing transgender case. But what are the implications of these results? While previous research has highlighted the societal benefits of passing, our results indicate that passing transgender people might be perceived as wolves in sheep's clothing, which face a specific type of prejudice and discrimination in certain situations compared to non-passing transgender people for violating expectations of identity more, which negatively influences their social outcomes, such as lenient sentencing for their killers, which could also explain why in 1/3 of LGBT plus pan defense cases, we see defendants get more lenient sentencing. So we hope with this line of research we can, 1, understand how violating expectations of identity influence social outcomes and increase justice for transgender victims of violent crimes by advocating for the national ban of the trans pan defense. Thank you. But I'm proud of myself.
Hey. Just say test, test, and you're normal. Just. Don't look down. Say test.
Okay,
Test,
great.
test.
So we're going to move on to our next presenter, Janam Daruva from Computer Science, who is going to be talking about building a smarter home for a greener planet.
Okay, now give me a mic test, test.
Hello,
Don't
hello.
do that. Just say test, test.
Test, test. Hello.
Now do it.
Hello.
Test, test.
Test, test.
All right.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yep.
Awesome. Energy powers everything around us. It powers our hospitals, campuses, our homes, even the electric scooter you might see me riding around sometimes. Energy is important, and we are using more and more of it every day. But with this growing demand comes an important question, a big one. How do we keep up? Well, there's 2 ways to go about this. Either we create and supply more energy, or we get smarter with what we already have. I focus on the latter. My aim is, I want to make our homes more energy efficient. I guess all of us would like our energy bills to go down, right? Turns out that the heating and cooling loads of our house account for up to 55% of the total energy we use. So if we somehow can minimize this, the energy that we use, it's not gonna only minimize the total energy, but also lower our bills. But the important part here is that we should be comfortable in our own homes. We should not be freezing or scorching, no matter how the HVAC system's operating in the background. The good news here is, today, with the advancement of Internet of Things, we now have smart appliances, smart meters, smart thermostats, and many intelligent tools in our house that can help us manage and monitor our energy usage. But these tools still need explicit instructions or algorithms that tell them what to do and how exactly to save this energy. That's where my research comes in. I'm developing systems for our heating and cooling systems to not only be reactive, but also proactive. We know our houses react in a similar fashion in similar weather conditions. If it's hot outside, it'll warm up. If it's cool outside, our house will cool down. So I use my time to develop machine learning models that take in weather data as input and quantify how our houses will change for that weather. And then after I can quantify how my house will change under different weather conditions, I can create and generate multiple scenarios for my heating and cooling system. So I can predict for the next few hours how my HVAC system is going to behave, and then select the best one. And the best one here is that minimizes the maximum energy, minimizes the cost, and all while keeping us comfortable. And it is a complicated task to search in this vast amount of permutations and scenarios, and that's some part of my research that focuses how to select the best one. The best part about the systems are they are completely autonomous. So we are saving energy just by having the systems into our house and without doing anything explicitly. And this way, we can all contribute towards a greener and a sustainable future, which I think is pretty cool. Thank you.
All right. So moving on, we have Fatima Hamidi from Biomedical Engineering, who's going to tell us about seeing the unseen optical imaging for early detection of brain disorders in newborns. Fatima?
Hello, everyone. I am a woman. As a woman, I have a desire to have a baby one day. But the most important thing for me is to have a healthy baby. I deeply understand the feeling of mothers of preterm babies, where their preterm babies are placed in NICU room. The joy of having a baby is combined with fear and uncertainty because they are worried about the future health of their baby. And did you know that about 15 million babies are born as premature each year around the world? And also, did you know that about 45% of these babies may develop neurological disease? But there are two main factors which can help us to early detect neurological disease. Factors like cerebral blood flow in the brain and oxygenation in the brain. Therefore, we need to monitor these two factors. There are some methods which we all are familiar. Methods like MRI and CT scan. But did you know that for doing one-time MRI, it costs about $6,000 for parents? And also, did you know that for doing MRI, they need to take the baby outside of NICU room, put them in a fixer, not to have any motion artifact, and then put them in MRI machine? As a biomedical engineer, however, with a secure patent, we have developed an optical imaging device which is portable and non-contact. It means that we can take the device inside the NICU room and monitor blood flow and oxygenation of the brain of premature babies, where they are sleeping near their parents and they are relieved and they are less stressed. We got a grant of $4 million over studies of 5 years of study. During last 1.5 years, I did monitor about 15 preterm babies. And the good news is that my results are promising. They are comparable with MRI machine. But right now, I am working on the machine to improve the resolution and make it suitable for commercialization. In the next upcoming January, I will present my results to the most prestigious conference in my field. I want to introduce our device to other research, to other groups, so we can make it available all around the US and also all around the world in the future. Hopefully, one day, we can give every preterm baby the best possible start in their life they deserve, and also the peace of mind to their parents. Thank you.
Okay, up next we have Lasni Nishanka, who will be talking about Thirsty for Answers. Does estradiol and histamine team up to control water intake?
Did you know that cardiovascular disorders is the leading cause of death in women over the age of 65? And the risk of getting cardiovascular diseases like hypertension increased drastically compared to men in postmenopausal women? So you might think this means that cardiovascular research in women is well established, right? Wrong. There is a significant gap in our understanding in sex differences and the mechanisms on how sex differences protect our body from cardiovascular diseases. So this gap exists mainly because women have been historically excluded from research. Did you know in the US, it was only 1980s when women were included in clinical research, and it was only mandated in 1993? So we are looking at a massive research gap here which would impact half the population. So my lab is working on filling this research gap one study at a time. Maintaining hydration is very important for cardiovascular health. I want to introduce you to a very interesting research I recently started working on in our lab on how estradiol, which is a sex hormone, acts with histamine, which is a neurotransmitter, to control water intake in females. So why histamine and why estradiol? So histamine, in addition to being involved in inflammatory responses, is also involved in increasing and decreasing food intake and water intake. And estradiol is a prominent sex hormone, and it has implications in being defensive against fluid homeostasis, and it is considered that one of the reasons behind postmenopausal women having a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases is the loss of estradiol that happens after menopause. So, how estradiol and histamine interact? I hypothesize that estradiol and histamine get together to increase water intake in females. So we already know that estradiol as a hormone can increase water intake, but we do not know the underlying mechanisms behind this. So my hypothesis is that estradiol increases histamine sensitivity in order to increase water intake. So in a series of studies in my lab, I confirmed that when rats are treated with histamine, they consume considerably more water, and when the activity of histamine is blocked, they consume considerably less water even when they are motivated to drink. So I hypothesized that estradiol increased histamine sensitivity, which would make rats treated with histamine and estradiol consume considerably more water in order to control water intake. So my research would explain a prominent research gap where water intake in females are not understood yet. So it is my understanding that my work will aid in filling a prominent research gap in cardiovascular health in women.
Okay, our final presenter in the Pre-3MT Research Showcase is Josephine Otagoma, who's going to be talking how cells can lie too, from Nutritional Sciences.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing today? I hope you're all feeling fine. Awesome, thank you. But let me ask you this. Are you really, truly fine? Many times when people ask how we're doing, we respond with I'm fine because it's the expected answer, even when we're not feeling great inside. Interestingly, even in the body, our cells have a similar way of communicating. They can claim to be fine when they are not. They are able to do this because of a protein called CD47. Just like your bright smiles and your bright eyes shows that you're doing well, CD47 have a way of showing when a cell is doing fine. And it can act like a signal that prevents a cell from being destroyed by our body immune system. But there is a catch. When we have too much fat in the liver cells become sick. The sicker they become, the more of this protein they begin to make. And they begin to claim they are fine when obviously they are not. And they are able to escape being destroyed by our body defense system. Now, when we have too much liver cells that are sick, this can lead to liver cancer. So what should we do? Should we leave these cells to lie and let people die? Or should we take away these cells' ability to deceive and let people live? This is exactly what we set out to do in our research. And we found something really amazing. That when we take out this CD47 and take away this cell's ability to lie by taking away CD47, the liver could no longer store too much fat. And the sick liver cells were able to admit that they were not fine, and they were cleared and destroyed as they should be. Exciting, right? But I have an important question. Was this amazing finding because of the liver cells themselves? Or maybe some other cells contributed in this great process? I'm currently exploring this in my current research, and I'm hoping to be able to solve this riddle in my subsequent finding. I am very passionate about the future of this research because it could be a game changer for people living with fatty liver and prevent them from having liver cancer. Ultimately, I hope that these cells can take a break and they don't have to lie anymore, so that when they say they're fine, they're truly fine. And I hope that until we meet again, that when you say you're fine, I hope that you truly feel and you mean it. Thank you.
All right, let's give a round of applause for all of our Pre-3MT presenters. And now is the time for your voice to be heard with your People's Choice Award for the Pre-3MT. You can scan the QR code. That'll take you to a Google form. Or if you're patient enough, you can put in that link on the slide. So we'll let you know, we'll give you a warning, a 30-second warning when the form is about to close, when voting's over. Okay, this is your 1-minute warning. The poll will close in 1 minute. All right, polling is now closed. In just a second, we will get started with our 3MT 3-minute thesis competition. All right, so the second part of our night, the 3-minute thesis competition. First up, we have Deborah Ademi from chemistry, who will be talking about how you are the air I breathe. Deborah? Okay.
Do you know you are the air I breathe? I am here to change your perspective about the phrase you're the air I breathe. So when next you hear from someone close, you don't just take it as a sweet love affirmation. Instead, you see it as a call to action, a reminder that every emission, every pollutant affects the air that we all rely on. The truth is, what happens in the air doesn't just stay in the air. It travels, it transforms, and impacts our lives in ways we do not expect. The atmosphere knows no boundaries or borders, and that's why smoke from wildfires in Canada drifts all the way down to New York City. And industrial emissions from distant factories make hurricanes like Helene and Milton more destructive. As the Earth's climate changes, the chemistry of our atmosphere changes in ways we do not fully understand. According to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal on climate action, global warming transcends just temperature rises. It amplifies weather extremes that triggers devastating wildfires and hurricanes. These global events don't just leave behind physical destruction. They contaminate the air, worsening pollutions that claim about 7 million lives annually. And here's where my research comes in. My research unpacks the chemical reaction that occurs in the atmosphere. So think of the atmosphere as a huge pressure cooker, where several volatile organic compounds from different emission sources react with the atmospheric oxidant like ozone, hydroxyl radicals, and nitric oxide to form aerosols, which are tiny airborne particles that affect both climate and health. Using field measurements and advanced atmospheric models, we study how these aerosols evolve, form, and travel across regions. We explore how their rates of reaction increase with global warming and how they influence the Earth's radiating forcing. We also determine the atmospheric lifetimes of these compounds, decode their transformation pathways, as well as predict their impact on storm intensities and pollution events. The data we generate informs both climate policies and public health strategies. So by understanding how these VOCs and aerosols behave under different conditions, we are able to profile smarter solutions such as improving air quality warning, designing better forecasting models for extreme weather conditions. Addressing air pollution isn't just about cutting carbon emission. It is about unraveling the chemistry of the air we breathe and the weather we experience. So think of the atmosphere, and when you see the atmosphere, you know that it is a shared resource, a thread that connects us all. And whatever we release into the air doesn't just disappear. It returns to shape our health, our lives, our storms, and our future. So when next you hear the phrase, "You are the air I breathe," think beyond compassion and think about the environment. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Emily Ingram from Chemical Engineering, who will be talking about using crystallization to increase sustainability in the synthesis of polyethylene glycol nanoparticles. Emily.
You forgot about me. It's okay.
The night is getting long for this.
Okay. In a world where nanoparticles have macro problems, one nanoparticle takes a stand against the injustices they face when they are synthesized. Miss Polly down in Spherical City says that there's been an increase in the number of publications noting more sustainable and conscientious synthesis processes. This is not enough, as scientists continue to disregard the use of harsh organic solvents and long purification techniques to increase the recovery and purity of nanoparticles. But never fear, Emulsigirl is here. Emulsigirl has an alternative technique using naturally derived oils and water. Emulsigirl solution is called a water and oil nanoemulsion, where a water droplet containing a polymer, such as polyethylene glycol, is added to an oil, and a reaction occurs inside the water, transforming the polymer into a nanoparticle that can then be used to carry hydrophilic drugs in the treatment of human diseases such as cancer. The challenge still remains, though, in the separation of these particles. Liquid-liquid separation is a commonly used technique, but often requires the use of harsh organic solvents to quickly precipitate out the particles. Solid liquid separation is an alternative technique to liquid-liquid separation. In solid liquid separation, a solid oil is heated to a liquid, and a water polymer layer is added to it, creating a water and oil nanoemulsion. After a reaction occurs to the polymer, transforming it into a nanoparticle, the emulsion is removed from the heat, and the oil is returned to its solid phase on top of the water layer in a process called crystallization. Gone are the days where we have to use harsh organic solvents and long drawn-out purification steps where we continually risk losing nanoparticles. Emulsigirl delivers a new hope as she breaks down the separation barrier and delivers a 200 nanometer battalion of tumor-fighting nanoparticles to Miss Polly down in the Spherical City. She promises to deliver more nanoparticles by recycling the oil layer, slashing the ratio of waste generated in the synthesis technique. This further disappoints all of the mad scientists and their corporate cronies who bathe in their profits and disregard the vast amount of waste generated and toxic nanoparticles. So the next time that you want to create hydrophilic nanoparticles, we ask that you use this emulsion technique with the crystallization separation for the safety of nanoparticles everywhere. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have Carly Littrell from Experimental Psychology talking about the impact of family history density on substance use onset and duration. Carly.
Imagine waking up one day unable to comprehend the world around you. That was my reality after an ear infection led to a life-threatening abscess on my temporal lobe. Thankfully, brain surgery saved my life, but the aftermath was overwhelming. I dealt with memory loss, epilepsy, and psychiatric challenges. Struggling with this new reality, I turned to substances to cope. But 5 years ago, I took a stand and entered recovery. Today, I return to the very same treatment center where I once sought help. In my role, I've witnessed firsthand how addiction weaves its way through families. In fact, research shows that a positive family history makes somebody 2 to 8 times more likely to develop a substance use disorder themselves. I'll never forget when, sitting in a group session as a patient, a staff member asked, "Who here has a family member who also struggles with addiction?" Almost every hand in the room went up, including mine. I've lost a loved one to addiction, and many of my family members still struggle with it today. So I decided to look at some of the questions with my research. This piqued my interest, and I had many questions about, are there patterns in inheritance, patterns in when someone starts using, how long they use, different substance preferences. With 1 in 3 adults likely to face a substance use disorder in their lifetime, understanding these patterns has never been more urgent. So I looked at data from 36,000 adults and tested whether family history of substance use problems related to when someone starts using and how long they continue to use. And the results were striking. The more family members with a history of addiction, the earlier people start using and the longer it persists. But why does this matter? Because every hand raised in that room was a family story of pain. By discovering how family patterns influence age at onset and different substance use criteria, we can transform interventions and stop addiction before it starts and develop treatments to heal entire families. We can stop the cycle of addiction and transform the future. Imagine family history not as a predictor of pain, but a tool for prevention. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Pega Safavi from Biomedical Engineering, who will talk about what if a portable sensor could enable early Alzheimer's detection. Pega.
Hello everyone. How do you feel if you have a loved one in your family who no longer remember your name? I come from a small coastal city in southern Iran. My journey here is inspired by my uncle. He was the first person in my family who pursued a graduate degree and encouraged me to follow my dreams. Unfortunately, these days, he no longer recognizes me because Alzheimer's disease has taken his memory. His experience drives me to find a way to help people with this disease. Alzheimer's disease affects 5 million people now in the US. This number is expected to grow to 7 million by 2030 and double to 14 million by 2050. By then, the cost of care for patients will be around $1 trillion each year. So what does it mean for a society when millions of families face this burden? Alzheimer's disease places a huge strain on families and our healthcare system. My project aims to help ease this burden. Current technologies such as MRI, CT scan, and ultrasound, they have significant limitations. They are either too expensive, bulky, or just provide one-time measurement. So why do we need a better way to monitor Alzheimer's disease? With a secured patent and NIH grant, our team has developed a wearable sensor which can continuously monitor two key signals that early show up in Alzheimer's: brain blood flow and oxygenation level. The change in these two appear early, even before memory problem starts. So this breakthrough technology is non-invasive and easy to use, like wearing a watch. It works by shining lasers on skin and tracking change in reflected light. We have successfully tested our device on animal brain and human forearm. I'm going to present my results to one of the well-known conferences in the US next January in San Francisco. So with this secured patent, we hope to help doctors to detect early Alzheimer's, giving a chance to family have a chance to family to plan and get support before disease progresses. So we hope to commercialize this device soon and make that ready for public. What would it mean to give back those moments to families? That's the future I'm working to build. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Tori Stanton from Statistics, who will talk about want more sustainable food, start with better statistics. Tori.
Who here likes to eat? And who here is concerned about the impacts of climate change? Food production is a major contributor to climate change. Luckily, there is a lot of research being conducted to help find more sustainable ways to produce the food we all live to consume. My research plays a role in helping to find a solution to climate change. See, when researchers conduct experiments, they collect data. To draw conclusions from this data, the researchers will turn to statistics and statistical models. In order for those conclusions to be accurate, the statistical models they use need to be accurate as well. My research is aiming to help improve the accuracy of these models so that we get good conclusions when researchers turn to these models. These conclusions are useful for policymakers who need good data and models to inform their decision. If less accurate statistical models are used, policymakers may allocate funds or write policies in a way that is not as effective as it could be. Some research involves testing carefully selected treatments or conditions. For example, a researcher might hypothesize that increased rainfall will decrease greenhouse gas emissions. To test this hypothesis, they will conduct an experiment where some land will receive no irrigation, some land will receive a small amount of irrigation, and some land will receive a large amount of irrigation. In each portion of land, the researcher will collect data about the greenhouse gases emitted. Due to geographic variability, the researcher may decide to collect multiple data points within each portion of land. Oftentimes, these data points are averaged together to get one, hopefully representative value for that portion of land. However, averaging may mask the trends that exist and make it hard to draw a meaningful conclusion. My research is creating a new statistical technique that can use these multiple data points without averaging to determine which, if any, of those treatments reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This new technique has a better chance of detecting if there truly is a difference and limits our chance of making a wrong conclusion. If we want to improve sustainable food, we need to use better statistical models to draw accurate conclusions and put sustainable practices in place. Thank you.
Our final presenter of tonight is Mary Margaret Zruel from Musicology, who will be talking about composed in captivity music by French prisoners of war during World War II. Mary Margaret.
Cherie, my darling, wrote French composer Émile Gouet to his wife in 1943 from a German prisoner of war camp where he had been held for nearly 3 years. I sent you a direct mail of the prelude, chorale, and fugue that I am offering to my 3 children as the most bare and pure thing I have done. During World War II, Émile Gouet spent a total of 5 years in German captivity before he was liberated by Allied soldiers, only to die just a year after his return to Paris. As a prisoner, Gouet faced countless hardships, from insufficient rations and inadequate clothing to loneliness and depression. But he also worked tirelessly to create beauty and meaning for his fellow prisoners and for his wife and children back in France through his music. During his captivity, Gouet composed more than 25 distinct pieces of music, infusing each one with something special: spiritual reflections, pedagogical content, expressions of love and longing for his family. Even now, in 2024, we're still fascinated by stories from World War II, but most people have never heard of Émile Gouet or the 1.5 million other French prisoners held in German captivity, or the art they created. My research tells the stories of Gouet and men like him who spent their time as prisoners composing music. Drawing from historical context and archival documents, I first established that these aren't just individual examples of isolated creativity, but part of larger systems of intellectual, cultural, and spiritual activities that in the prisoner of war camps were actually protected under international law. And you can see some pictured on the screen. By synthesizing prisoners' writings and my own analysis of their music, I try to understand how these prisoner composers used music in the camps. Sometimes this is very easy. A piece of music that says "written for the Requiem Mass" on the cover was probably used for religious purposes. But other times I have to try to interpret why a composer chose to set a certain text, or how he hid messages of resistance in musical references to protest songs, or what exactly makes a piece of music bare and pure. I also draw from newspaper clippings and reviews to explore how performances of these prisoners' compositions in wartime Paris functioned as propaganda for the French government. Although my research is rooted in the past, it can teach us important lessons for the future. For 21st century artists, understanding how the French government used these prisoners' music as propaganda reminds us to be wary of those who might want to take advantage of our earnestly created art. Even more importantly, hearing stories of French prisoners who managed to create something beautiful, even in the most dire of circumstances, can give us, in a world too often characterized by tragedy and uncertainty, hope to do the same. Thank you.
All right, let's give a round of applause for all of our presenters. And we've reached the point of the evening where you can now vote for your People's Choice Award winner for the 3MT. Same system applies. Scan the QR code and you'll access that form. And at this time, the judges will convene around the corner in a secret room to talk about the results, and then we will have an announcement of the winners. Thank you. Okay, let's give a final round of applause for all of our presenters tonight and to our judges. All right, so we're going to start with the pre-3MT research showcase. All of the winners I announced, it does come with a monetary prize, but we do not have big checks up here. But those will be sent to you through the graduate school. Also, all participants and winners, if you can just stick around a little bit for photos after I announce the winners. All right. So for the pre-3MT, our People's Choice winner for $150 goes to Josephine Otuagoma. Our third place winner, $150, goes to Janam Duruva, Building a Smarter Home. Our second place winner, $250, goes to Fatima Hamedi. And our first place winner, $500, Josephine Atugoma. All right, so moving on to the 3-minute thesis competition. The People's Choice winner, $250, Deborah Adeyemi. Third place winner, $250, Carly Literal. Second place winner, $500, Mary Margaret Zurl. And our first place winner, $750, and the opportunity to go on to the regional competition is Pega Safarvi. All right. So that concludes our event. All participants and winners, if you can just stick around for some photos. Thank you all so much, and thanks to everyone.